You're putting your real chips on the vaccine being fast.
I think we're going to have a vaccine by the end of the year. Now, the doctors would say, well, you shouldn't say that. I'll say what I think.
The president hasn't been afraid to say exactly what he's thinking, even if it goes against what we're hearing from experts. The president has, of course, promoted an unproven malaria drug to treat coronavirus. He has suggested disinfectants could be used to kill the virus in humans and other things. Back with us tonight, Walter Isaacson, distinguished fellow with the Aspen Institute, former editor of Time magazine, veteran journalist, and author, biographer of Franklin, Einstein, Kissinger, Jobs, and Da Vinci. Is also professor of history at the Jewel of New Orleans, Tulane University. Walter, it is excellent to see you again. Thank you for being with us. And because you are a student of history, I have to ask you about something that Donald Trump said about himself in comparing himself to former presidents. Let's play it and listen together.
I am greeted with a hostile press, the likes of which no president has ever seen. The closest would be that gentleman right up there. They always said Lincoln. Nobody got treated worse than Lincoln. I believe I am treated worse. You're there. You see those press conferences. They come at me with questions that are disgraceful.
He may be missing a key part of Lincoln's legacy, including a fateful visit to a theater one night, in saying that he's been treated worse than Lincoln. What do you think about Donald Trump's view of why he is treated the way he is?
Well, let's start with Lincoln. Lincoln really cared about science. In the middle of the Civil War, he starts the National Academy of Sciences. And it's part of a tradition of our president, which is they love the scientific method, whether it's Thomas Jefferson, who was, a great biologist and anatomist, or all the way through to Dwight Eisenhower, who kept referring to my scientist. It helped them look at facts, build theories based on facts, and then test those theories and see if they get more evidence. And if the evidence turned out to be different, they'd change. That was the method that's sort of at the core of what America's all about. And the fact that Donald Trump is so contemptuous of science, I think, doesn't put him in the best tradition of American presidents or in the best tradition of American pragmatism and America's can-do spirit and America's, hey, just tell me the facts. Give me the facts. I'll figure this out.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.